Yes, this is our town. Big enough to serve you, small enough to know you. It isn't a large town, only 5,000 strong, but is truly a fine town. We'd like to tell you about ourselves and show you through our community. We're proud of our schools, churches, our industries, and businesses. We want you to see and hear the way we live and play. Our mode of daily living to us is perfect. We know you will enjoy Litchfield as much as we will enjoy your tour through it. One method of getting into and out of Litchfield is the 12 buses which serve our town every day. There are 6 going east and 6 going west. They come in along U.S. Highway 12 and stop at the portico in front of the Litchfield Hotel. The passengers have a chance to see a little more of our town than most of the towns en route, because Litchfield is a rest stop. Every bus stays here for 15 or 20 minutes. Thus, the passengers can stop in at the colonial room of the hotel for a snack, or just relax if they so desire. Because of the frequent service, these buses are popular with people going into the Twin Cities for just a day's shopping or for business. The run into Minneapolis takes an hour and a quarter. Being the county seat, the Meeker County Courthouse is located in Litchfield. Law offenders spend their time in the Meeker County Jail. In modern civilization, granaries or grain elevators play one of the most important parts in the world's economy. Litchfield's grain elevators are located on Depot Street. Beyond the obvious purpose of providing safe storage, modern granaries provide automatic handling for the grain to and from storage with a maximum of speed and a minimum of cost. An outstanding advantage of the system is that a farmer can store his wheat or corn at a moderate rate and can get an advance on his warrant if he is in need of money. Robert Dunbar of Scotland designed the first modern type of granary in Buffalo, New York in 1834. Litchfield's elevators are thus a necessity to the farmers of this area. We're going along Sibley Avenue now. This is the main street of Litchfield. This is the way it looks right now, with its drugstores, dry goods establishments, barber shops, groceries, butcher shops, and movie theaters. Ours is a good-looking, typical 1953 community. We sometimes wonder what the first settlers back in the 1860s would think of Litchfield if they could see it now. In 1856, the village of Litchfield was formed. The first birth and the first death of the county were recorded in that year also. The record of the county's marriages is headed by that of Joseph Waymer and Mary Dorman of Kingston Town in 1857. In 1858, the first water-powered flour mill in the county began grinding. It was in use for almost 40 years. Meeker County, as it is today, was created by the 7th Territorial Legislature in 1869. On this gently rolling plain, hardy pioneers carved out a community that today is our typically busy and bustling town, serving the agricultural and business interests of south-central Minnesota. Served by the Great Northern Railroad, proud of its fine achievements and great progress, Litchfield, with nature's richest gifts at its doorstep, is a good place to live and a fine place to visit. U.S. Highway number 12 is an important artery to our town. It's the main motor route from the Twin Cities, and will soon be in service between Litchfield and the next county seat, Wilmar, which is 28 miles to the west of us. This is part of the highway construction crew working with graders, bulldozers, and giant caterpillars to give people another access to the capital of Meeker County, Litchfield. We are linked with all points north, south, east, and west by fine highways, rail, and air. This project, just to the north of town, will make getting here an easy matter. It's a very short distance for you, then, to come and see for yourselves what time has done for our community. From a rugged pioneer outpost where the few inhabitants had to dig ginseng and forage for cordwood for income, our town has grown until income and recreation are no longer the rare and difficult things they were before great highways and the railroads made possible our commerce and our subsequent growth. Litchfield is proud of its Meeker Memorial Hospital, one of the finest in Minnesota. Built 2 years ago, it is a 62-bed institution maintained by Meeker County. Illness is always a serious business, and especially so at Meeker Memorial. Here in the operating room, Doctors Dill and Wilmot are helping to cure an ill by performing an emergency appendectomy. Registered nurse Donna Kringle engaged in a phone conversation, and student nurse Sheila Harbinson and co-workers are just a step away from any patient who may need their assistance. The obstetrics ward and the nursery are on the 3rd floor of the hospital. Mrs. Dolores Wood is the nurse taking care of our youngest citizens here. She, along with the other nurses, is charged with the responsibility of the finest treatment available for these babies, as well as for their mothers. We imagine the nurses, just as the infants' mothers, wonder about future prospects for their sons and daughters. But whatever lies ahead, these youngsters are off to a fine start at the Meeker Memorial Hospital. Another similarly invaluable building is the Litchfield Clinic. The present building was opened in 1950. Walking up to the clinic's reception desk is the man who founded the institution, Dr. Harold Wilmot. He came to Litchfield in 1924. Here we see the complex X-ray machine. The patient is Mrs. Emily Kruger of Dassel. Nurse Ethel Akerson and doctor's assistant Donna Augustinson assist. This is Dr. Fred Schnell using a bonometer on his patient, Mrs. Chris Peterson. This instrument is taking Mrs. Peterson's blood pressure. While waiting recall to the Army, Dr. Dill works constantly as one of many doctors whose efforts are geared to relieve and cure. With a staff of 2 medical technicians, 3 registered nurses, and clerical help, Dr. Harold Wilmot and his brother Cecil maintain the highest possible standards at the clinic. The Litchfield Optimists will be on the field under the lights at 8:30. Good news for everyone. Chances are that the folks in Litchfield worry just as much about the fate of their young people as the folks in other towns do. But not every town is able to transform that concern into some sort of constructive action. You can see what we've done with our worrying. It took a good deal of forethought and honest work on the part of lots of Litchfield men and women. Because of them, we are able to show you these pictures of our baseball team and our townspeople enjoying themselves watching that great American pastime. Now, this team of ours isn't a very old one, but it is a very good one. We say that not just from local pride, but because it really is true. The team came out of the 1951 season as state champs in the Double-A League. The game which decided the issue in '51 will be remembered around here for a mighty long time. 3,600 people were in the Litchfield stands to watch the Optimists come out on top. Dick Siebert is the team's manager, run by a 12-man board of directors of Litchfield's nonprofit recreational club, The team is a self-sustaining source of pride in our town. Litchfield is a pleasant and unusually law-abiding town. Therefore, the police seldom get themselves involved in any really messy skullduggery. Not that they wouldn't be able to take care of such if need be. Once in a while, though, someone gets careless and forgets to mind his driving manners. It's then that Litchfield's finest moves fast. Getting around town in the prowl car, Chief George Fenner and Patrolman John Rogers can spot these careless motorists and hand out tickets with the best of them. Chief Fenner has had the department's top job since the first of this year. He isn't a stranger to this occupation, however. Before coming to Litchfield 3.5 years ago, he was on the force in Fairmont for 5 years. John Rogers is comparatively new at this kind of work, but by watching his chief in action, he has learned quickly and well what a policeman has to do, giving out traffic tickets, for example. He knows how to do this, but watches the chief for any tricks of the trade he may have bypassed. There are 2 other men on the force. The town has round-the-clock protection for its people and its property. The people here know the policemen as helpful friends, more often than as somewhat threatening executors of a stern community conscience. Our officers of the law have more to do, though, than simply hand out an occasional ticket. The police phone at Sibley and 2nd Streets relays late-hour reports from a central exchange of where and how soon they may be needed for duty. With the town police clearing downtown traffic, the Litchfield Volunteer Fire Department, under Chief Herman Kruger, is able to send out its trucks at a moment's notice. There are 25 men always on call. Free enterprise is at work in Litchfield. 13-year-old Darrell Holtz is a businessman or a business boy. He's one of 35 boys who deliver the Twin Cities dailies to the folks of the area. He earns pocket money this way, so he'll be all set for school. One of the business streets of Litchfield is Depot Street. Grain, which is big business here, and its elevators and the auto and appliance businesses are located here. Not far from the center of town is Schwartzwald's Motors, the Nash and International Harvester dealer in Litchfield since 1946. You're not likely to see this anymore. It's a miniature of the first Nash Rambler on the road, a 1902 model. 51 years later, we see the Nash Rambler again. Quite a contrast, isn't it? The fanciest model of the Nash is the Statesman Country Club. Oscar Schwartzwald shows you what a flick of the wrist can do. Oscar has many items on display with the Nash cars. He sells international motor trucks, Kelvinator refrigerators, Whirlpool laundry equipment, and all manner of household appliances. Everything is neatly arranged in the large showroom to facilitate easy access for the inspection of each item. To keep it in top condition, one should take care of his car as he does himself. Consequently, we have a top-notch doctor in our service department to take care for all the ills which might occur. Dr. Don Ladd checks the springs, transmission, steering apparatus. He gives the whole car a complete checkup to protect Schwartzwald's customers against mishaps. Throughout the summer, spring, and fall, as long as the weather is favorable, Memorial Park is a favorite spot. Lake Ripley sketches a lovely background for the picnickers, and provides the welcome relaxation of swimming, boating, and fishing. The park is located a short distance southwest of Litchfield. The pleasant picture it presents invites all to stay for a time and rest. Churches and church life have long played an important part in Litchfield's spiritual and cultural development. Religious services were held as early as 1856. The Methodist minister John Robson held services in November. A year later, John Flynn's cabin was the scene in which the first Roman Catholic Mass was celebrated by Reverend Father Alexius. In 1858, the first Norwegian Evangelical Lutheran service was held in the Ness home. In 1870, a year after the village of Litchfield was chartered, Presbyterian services were held in an unfinished schoolhouse. The first church building was constructed in 1874 on a lot which had been donated to the congregation by the old St. Paul and Pacific Railroad. The Trinity Episcopal Church was the outgrowth of the Gethsemane Church in Minneapolis. With the passage of time, we have grown through the spiritual enrichment of our lives. Also located southwest of town is the Litchfield Golf Club. It is on the shores of Lake Ripley. This handsome little clubhouse, equipped with showers, lockers, and a dining room, is available to members only. The club has a membership list of 120. Many people come from the Twin Cities and from other communities and pay the green fees in order to avoid the congestion of other courses. Wednesday is Ladies' Day and is reserved for bridge and golf. Wednesday evening is reserved for stag affairs. The clubhouse is now being enlarged. Dr. and Mrs. Farish are playing through on the lovely 9-hole course. No story of Litchfield could ever be complete without getting cattle into the picture sooner or later. Some 60-odd years ago, a most important step forward was taken. In 1890, a certain Dr. Stephen M. Babcock found that sulfuric acid added to a milk sample would digest all of the non-fat solids. He further discovered that the heat involved in the mixture would melt the fat and allow it to rise to the surface. Thus, the butterfat content of milk could be determined simply, quickly, and accurately. This became the Babcock test. It has given the world, without cost, the basis of a vast and important industry in Litchfield and in the world, the dairy industry. Thanks to those cows and to Minnesota farmers, one in particular, John Brandt, we have this plant. A bit before his time in the 1890s, Theophilus L. Hecker helped to organize cooperative creameries. Later, Brandt was the guiding spirit behind the forming of Unit Number 1 of the Minnesota Cooperative Creameries Association. In 1921, Brandt and others formed the association to act as the distribution agent for the dairy products of the area. Now, through the Land O'Lakes trade name, this plant ships out the end product of a daily intake of 20,000 pounds of milk. Funneled to the separators, the milk will leave here as whole milk, as ice cream, as butter, or non-fat dry milk solids. Because the ice cream industry is able to use large quantities of milk during the season of flush production, it is known as the balance wheel of the dairy industry. Wally Skoglund is adding flavor to the ice cream you buy under the Land O'Lakes label. Once the flavor is properly mixed in, the ice cream is fed into packages. Milt Langren at the freezer knows just when the container is properly filled. From Milt, the ice cream is passed along to Dick Leaf, who checks for proper weight. In the bottling plant, this machine measures out exactly 1 quart at regulated intervals. Once filled, these bottles are sent to the freezer. Creamery manager Oz Heyer is at the cream pasteurizer. This equipment has been devised to assure the health of the consumers with the safeguards discovered by Pasteur. Inside the machine, the temperature is kept at 165 degrees. It is cooled in time to 40 degrees and kept there overnight. By the next morning, the cream is ready to be churned into butter. Number 1's giant butter churn agitates the pasteurized cream until it becomes A1 butter, ready for storage. The familiar and traditional picture of the sleepy little Midwestern town definitely does not apply to Litchfield. It is true enough that we are not a nightlife town in the metropolitan sense, but neither is ours a dull, uneventful community. There isn't a nightclub within many miles of our main street, and most of our entertaining is done in our homes, in the churches, or the Legion Hall. It isn't true that if we don't sit at home, we have nothing to do or no place to go. Walking along Sibley Avenue at night, you'll find a great many people enjoying themselves downtown. Friday night, not Saturday night, is the night of most activity in Litchfield. The merchants of the town decided to stay open late Friday evenings, and the change has worked out very well. But whether it's Friday or Tuesday or any other day, the people of Litchfield have found that this is a very pleasant town for movies, shopping, visiting with friends, a trip to one of the soda fountains, or a restaurant, or for whatever purpose folks like to come to town. One of the staple industrial establishments of our town is the Litchfield Woolen Mill. Founded in 1889 by Mr. Henry X. Clauser, its products were at first largely sold to the lumber companies of the area. The company started making blankets in quantity in 1948, selling to jobbers throughout the United States. This operation has been quite successful, and the company today is starting to manufacture for the private consumer. The wool is from the East and is primarily made into mackinaws, shirting, pants, cloth and blankets for hotels, hospitals, motels, camping use, and the like. Wool is added to the blending machine by Hans Eriksson. This carefully supervised process utilizes the wool and mixes one type with another. In the late 1700s, the combing operation had its mechanical beginning. About 1785 to 1800, Dr. Edmund Cartwright, a clergyman with an unusually ingenious mind, thought out the ideas which underlie the 2 types of comb used today. In the first comb, he employed a vertical cylinder or barrel into which the comb teeth were fixed more or less radially. In the second comb, he placed the large carrying cylinder horizontally, charging it with tufts of combed wool overlaid so that on being drawn off, a continuous sliver was formed. In the carding operation, this machine takes the wool from the cylinders, rubs it between plates, and forms it into strings. The carding operation being completed, the wool is blown into the spinning room. Fed at the rate of 200 pounds an hour, it is ultimately destined for the spinning frame. Lyle Stitz, foreman of the carding and spinning operation, is threading the wool. The loom weaves 75 yards a day, and the shuttle flies from side to side, carrying the thread. As it comes off the napper, wool fabric is shrunk, washed, dyed, and combed on steel rollers. Most of the blankets made by the company have been of the rugged utilitarian type. Now a finer blanket for home use is being produced. To provide for this increased production since its beginning, the Litchfield Woolen Mill has expanded from one building into 8. The refreshment stand is always the center of attention on hot, muggy days when everyone looks to Central Park for relief. The Merlin Johnsons have provided many with a welcome cooling drink from the end of May when they open their stand until the cold sends everyone home. The land for Central Park was given to the town by the old St. Paul, Minneapolis, and Manitoba in 1870. The next year, trees and shrubs were added by private donation. A few years later, the park's first bandstand was erected. The building facing the park from Marshall Street is the 1883 GAR Hall. Many citizens hope that one day this old hall will be converted into a Litchfield and Meeker County museum. Unless children develop and mature properly, they become less effective citizens and less effective producers in society. Some may and occasionally do become undesirable members, and when this happens, society must pay the bill. Here in Litchfield, we prefer that our bill should pay for playgrounds, parks, and athletic supervision, rather than for mental institutions, hospitals, and penal establishments. We are mighty proud of our Dr. Frank Verby, now in Okinawa, who helped start the Litchfield Recreational Club. The interscholastic athletic teams for boys, the Girls Athletic Association, the driver training program of our high school, our music instruction classes, all of these lend a strong helping hand to Litchfield's youngsters. Since 1856 and the first birth in Meeker County, Litchfield has steadily grown and continually progressed. We have developed our industries, our culture, and our lives to make this community the wholesome, friendly place you know today. Ours is not a large town, but it is a fine town, big enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Litchfield, Minnesota, USA. This is our town. Yes, this is our town, and the Great Northern has just arrived at the depot. Won't you join us on a further tour of Litchfield from here? This railroad and the station are an integral part of our town's colorful history. The railroad was the deciding factor in the location of Litchfield, and a wise decision it was. The town was named for an Englishman, E.D. Litchfield. He was a heavy stockholder in the old St. Paul and Pacific Railroad, which has since become the Great Northern. In 1869, the St. Paul and Pacific decided this would be a fine town site. And they were right. 3 years later, on February 29, 1872, the village of Litchfield was chartered. We see the Great Northern's Western Star coming into Litchfield. This crack train runs from Chicago to Seattle. Our town is its first stop out of the Twin Cities. This is one of the 4 trains which serve Litchfield each day, a local and an express going east, and a local and an express going west. The passenger and freight train service into and out of Litchfield keeps 6 of our town's people busy. There are 4 telegraphers, an agent, and a warehouseman. They are constantly busy serving you, whether you're boarding one of the trains or sending or receiving merchandise. We of Litchfield thank the directors of the old St. Paul and Pacific for their wisdom in deciding this would be a good place for our town. Older people in particular love to watch a group of youngsters at play. It always brings to mind memories of their own youth, which has flown all too quickly. The greater part of those days of yore were school days. The first years of those days of learning may have been spent at the Longfellow Grade School. Since its opening in 1903, the grounds have undergone considerable change. A gymnasium is now being built for the school's young people. It's going to be equipped with every modern facility and will blend with the older part of the building. The latter part of those young days was probably spent at Washington High School. Howard Jensen is the superintendent. All told, 1,405 youngsters attend our fine Litchfield schools. Another project is progressing on East 3rd Street. The new St. Joseph Parochial School is being built to serve those who have contributed to its construction and will contribute to its maintenance. In the early days of Meeker County, the schools were conducted in private homes. They were small log structures or crude frame buildings. The first school building in Litchfield was a modest frame affair. It was termed a subscription school because the patrons and citizens met the expenses of its maintenance. Nowadays, of course, our school system is a matter of great local pride, and justly so, for not only are the schools we have modern and well-equipped, but we're soon to have a new school, and this is it, or will be when the building job is done. On the east side of town, on Armstrong Avenue at 6th Street, this will be Litchfield's new grade school. No name has been picked so far, but whatever it is going to be called, the children will benefit from this new building. In 1911, Alfred Anderson Sr. started this industry with a single product, Anderson's Dairy Spray. Today, the Anderson Chemical Company markets that same product plus many more. 3 times mayor of Litchfield and a Swedish immigrant, Al Anderson's success in America is typical of the opportunities this land and this town afford. This machine is a mixer for the Anderson product, Aerol, a wetting agent which makes it effective in penetrating fats and greasy surfaces. Foreman Elmer Bauer is moving a consignment of Anderson fly spray into the storage area. The spray is widely used by dairy farmers. Elmer and the boys he supervises are responsible for the packaging and shipment of a considerable range of Anderson products. This time we're watching the packaging of another Anderson product called Fomite. Mrs. Elmer Bauer is operating the packaging machine. It is her job to manipulate the carton into which the product is funneled in such a way that, in a matter of seconds, it is unfolded, glued on the bottom, filled, glued at the top, and sent on its way to the shipping department. Mrs. Bauer is quick at this job, unfolding the 4-pound carton, fixing glue fore and aft, and putting the completed job on a belt assembly without wasting a motion. Anderson's Fomite is one of the company's consumer products. Distributed in the Dakotas and in Minnesota, housewives in the area have become very familiar with this household cleaner and water softener. Gene Shaw and Ray Rick have been with the Anderson Chemical for 6 years, and both make their home here in Litchfield. They are loading one of the Anderson Chemical Company's trucks so that the products of this manufacturer of our town can move on to the industries and households of the region. Our tennis courts here in Litchfield are back of Washington High School on Armstrong and 2nd Streets. They are regulation tournament size and were opened in 1950. In the spring and the fall, these courts are used by the boys and girls of the physical education classes of the 7th grade through the 12th grade. They are also used by our high school tennis squad, which competes with squads from other schools of the area. During 2 evenings a week throughout the summer, tennis instruction classes are held as part of the city recreation program. Tennis form is closely watched by our high school physical education instructor, Mr. Bill Gebhard. These Litchfield Junior High youngsters are 15-year-old Jeannie Anderson and Dorothy Christensen, the Ainger brothers, Lee, who is in 9th grade, and Cordy, who is in the 8th grade. Not champions maybe, but certainly champions in heart, if not yet in style. The citizens of Litchfield have organized a city recreation program for the young people. We know that only by helping our children by providing healthful, wholesome outlets for their abounding energy may we expect them to become happy, useful citizens. Thanks to the Litchfield Recreational Club, there is always something for the youngsters to do. All activities are under adult supervision. The club is a non-profit organization. The program includes many phases. Some of the activities offered are musical instruction classes, Girls Athletic Association, and a high school driver's training program. Since children are the product of their environment, we are making sure Litchfield's environment is good. It is through this building that the business life of Litchfield keeps its pipelines open to the markets of the country. For letters, cards, and the intake and outgo of vital products, this is the Litchfield Post Office on 2nd Street, east of Sibley. 7% of the tillable land lies in Minnesota, and Litchfield certainly has its share of that 7%. A generally level surface, fertile soils, and the excellent transportation facilities of our town help to make Minnesota a leading farm state. To retain this distinction, our farmers have quickly turned to the more efficient and swift methods of mechanization. Kaler Shea lives just outside of town on a farm. To him and members of his family, the sight of a tractor is certainly not unusual. Kaler is seeding alfalfa for the coming spring. This seeding method among the rows of corn is something of an experiment. As any farmer, he depends for his bread and butter on the steady and efficient working of mechanized farm equipment of the first order. The days of working with manual labor are but a memory to almost all farmers now. The cultivation of the lands was an all-time consuming job for every farmer for years and years. Not until the last 2 or 3 decades has the farmer's lot been made a bit easier. Now, with the advent of mechanization, a whole acreage can be covered in the time it would take a team of horses to do a small plot of ground. Not only can more acreage be covered in a relatively short time with machines, but the work may be done somewhat to the farmer's convenience. With the combine, the grain is picked up from windrows and then threshed. It is retained in the 25-bushel hopper while the straw is thrown aside as the machine moves across the field. The combine is used for all types of grain: oats, barley, soybeans, flax, and wheat. Ed Ham is a farmer who turned businessman. His Ham Implement Company is on U.S. Highway 12. Tractors are one of the big items which Ed sells at his place. He gives a toy model away with each original sold. Even with all his interest in and attention to the farmers of the Litchfield area, Ed hasn't forgotten about their wives, or the wives in town either. For example, he carries sewing machines in his store. Glenn Smith checks over one of the domestic brands in the store, which has just been sold. He's making certain it's okay before sending it to the purchaser. Ed, by the way, is not only a farmer and a businessman. He is also the head of our Chamber of Commerce. A very busy fellow is Ed Ham. One of the newest residential sections of Litchfield is the Greenleaf Edition. All of the houses are modern-looking, new and trim. They are filled with the most up-to-date labor-saving appliances to help ease the housewife's work. Once again, one can't help what the settlers with their rude log cabins would think if they could see us today. The farmers are far from the only people to benefit from the development of time and labor-saving machines. Not only does this machine, a 5-horsepower circular saw, save time and labor, it is much safer than trying to do this same job by hand. In the event a load is too much for it to handle, it automatically cuts off without any extra steps on the part of the operator. The Asbjornson Lumber Company has grown as part of and with Litchfield since the close of the Civil War. Inside the lumber yard, there is plenty of activity to keep everybody around busy 5 days a week. 1x12s of western pine are being loaded onto a company truck by Ole Martinson and Marvin Nelson. Ole, incidentally, is a real old-timer with the company. He has been working with the Asbjornson Lumber Company for 32 years. He is more familiar with matters of long ago than Boss John, who has headed the enterprise since leaving the Army in 1945. John Asbjornson discusses the building of Pat Campbell's new home with him. He assures Pat that he can get him anything he may need from the company's 3/4 of a city block storage area. This area will hold 1/2 million feet of lumber. Started in 1870 and still in family hands, the Asbjornson Lumber Company is a familiar name. The Litchfield Municipal Power Plant on 4th Street opened in 1947. It now takes the major output load from the old supplementary station 3 blocks away. Meeker County was the pioneer in the establishment of rural electrification. First steps leading to the setting up of the Meeker Cooperative Light and Power Company took place at a meeting of the directors of the Farm Bureau Association on June 28, 1935. After the investigating committee formed at this meeting had done its initial work, the cooperation of Washington was finally secured in January of 1936. In July of 36, then, 13 months from the date of the first meeting, the first pole was set 1 mile south of Lake Ripley on State Highway number 22. Fred Fisher is a policeman, not on the police force, but with the State Conservation Department. He is a game warden. He is policing Lake Minnie-Bell to find out whether anyone is fishing without a state license or ready to make off with more than the law allows. The State Conservation Department was established in 1931. It oversees the protection of their natural resources. 6 reservoirs have been built near the headwaters of the Mississippi. Water along the boundaries of Minnesota are under the control of the state. About 3/5 of the total available water power has been developed. Many acres of cut-over land are replanted in trees each year. Several fish hatcheries and game refuges are maintained. Lakes and streams are restocked with fish as necessary, and wildlife is protected by law. From his house on Holcomb Avenue, Fred has a lot of territory to cover each day. He's cruising around on the Lake Minnie-Bell just outside of Litchfield on the outlook for fishermen who are having themselves an unlicensed holiday or who may be carrying an excess catch. After 16 years with the Conservation Department, 3.5 of them here in Meeker County, Fred goes about his business with a professional self-assurance and calm. He makes an arrest every now and then, but arrests are secondary to his essential task of conservation. It is his business to see to it that the legal catch limit is observed by everybody, and to help with the job of keeping the country's lakes clear of carp, perch, and bulletheads. The state classes these as undesirable fish because they destroy the spawning beds of other game fish. With Meeker County's dozen lakes, this is in itself quite a task. Hunting and trapping regulations occupy Fred's attention a good part of every year also. The country has a few deer. More important to the conservationist are the abundance of wild mink, beaver, and muskrat, of duck and pheasant. Last year, approximately 35,000 muskrat were trapped and 1,000 wild mink, which brought the fancy price of $35 a pelt. With great police power and extensive freedom of search and seize, Fred Fisher is one of 144 game wardens of Minnesota who work through the Minnesota Department of Conservation to make the Gopher State a haven for the hunter and the fisherman. One of the most extensive businesses in our town is the Litchfield Produce Company. These are the main offices. The ice cream plant is part of the same operation. Founded in 1906 with just 3 people on the payroll, the company now employs 500 and sends its products all over the United States with sales offices in New York, Chicago, Minneapolis, Buffalo, and Boston. By candling, the 4 grades of eggs are separated after they have come in from the 120 buying stations, which the Litchfield Produce maintains here in Minnesota. When the eggs have been graded, they are dipped in a solution of vegetable oil and mineral oil, which seals their pores. Once coated in this manner, the eggs can be safely kept in storage for a considerable time. Working with devices of this sort, Litchfield Produce is able to process 35 cases in an hour's time. The ice cream products of the company are great favorites throughout Meeker County. To make those favorite popsticks of yours, the liquid base is poured into a mold. Next, a rack of sticks is lowered so that the finished product will come out with a handle attached. After 2 minutes, the liquid has been frozen into a tasty solid. The mold is then quickly immersed in hot water, and presto, out comes your popsticks. Verna's Tasty Tidbit is just one of the many things which Litchfield Produce sends out from its plants in our town, Melrose, Aiken, Battle Lake, Foley, New Munich, and Deep River Falls. With an annual business amounting to about $20 million, the company processes turkey, poultry, frozen eggs, and fresh eggs. The concerts in Central Park are a long-time summer favorite with the people of Litchfield and the surrounding area. Mr. M.B. Larson, our Washington High School music teacher, conducts the Litchfield Band. The band is composed of 36 musicians, all of whom have become part of a living tradition of our town. It was originally organized in 1871. At that time, there were 14 members in the band. However, the next 14 years did not prove as successful as they might have. So, in 1885, the group reorganized, still determined that Litchfield would have its band. 2 years later, in 1887, the band was incorporated. Being a corporation, it had the advantage of being able to buy some of the instruments it used. Today, the larger instruments are band property, and the smaller ones are privately owned. Parallel with the staying power of the band as an institution is the staying power of many of its members. The first conductor of the reorganized Litchfield Band, Mr. O.A. Olson, was active in that position and added to the enjoyment of our citizens every summer from 1885 to 1936. Today, the youngest member of this musical ensemble is 13-year-old Jerry Wheeler, who is working the cymbals so dutifully, while the eldest member is 63. Thus, people of all ages have joined together to give us our favorite musical summer evening. There are many young boys and men in Litchfield today who want to be crack mechanics when they are ready to go out into the world. They are not afraid to soil their hands and know that keeping the vehicles on the road in tip-top condition is a big factor in safe driving. It is a mighty good feeling to be able to say, I have helped cut down the accident rate and the death toll. Theirs is an occupation which requires skill, for in truth, the life of the driver depends on the skill and exactness of the mechanic. Having chosen one's life work, a necessary factor in the happiness and contentment of the individual is a happy employer-employee relationship. This is the order of the day in all Litchfield businesses. A perfect example is Fenton's Chevrolet Company. Fenton's are the Chevrolet and Cadillac dealer in Litchfield. The mechanics in the service department are the best to be had. They are aware of the responsibility that lies in their hands. Melvin Carlson puts his know-how to work on a lubrication job. It looks easy if you know what you're doing, doesn't it? And Fenton's customers may rest assured that Melvin will do an expert job. Emerald Watkins and Maynard Engebretson are two more mechanics of the Fenton Chevrolet Company who are well acquainted with their work. They have been with the company for many years. This machine will get an overall job that is complete down to the last detail. When the owner drives it out of the garage, he will know that each part is in excellent running condition. A child's imagination may roam at will within the walls of the library. She may travel to far-off mysterious lands unknown to all but herself. Or, if she chooses, she may be realistic and learn of the world in which she lives. Opportunities for unlimited adventure and learning are innumerable at Litchfield's library. In Litchfield, as in so many towns, Andrew Carnegie left the imprint of his success in the form of a library. Barbara Larson and Bonnie Berg are only two of the 2,200 folks, young and old alike, who take full advantage of this man's well-known philanthropy. Our librarian, Mrs. Leonard Erickson, has accomplished a great deal in favor of the library by speaking to women's groups and through stories in the newspapers. She has taught many and reminded others of the wonders and satisfactions the library offers, simply for the asking. Aided by the library board, Mrs. Erickson works hard to promote the library and to satisfy everyone. Back to Lake Ripley once again, the lovely spot in and around which so many pleasant hours are spent. The lake was named for a young Dr. Ripley, who was one of the early settlers in Meeker County. He endured a martyrdom peculiar to frontier living. In 1855, when Meeker County was really nothing but uncharted wilderness, this Dr. Ripley and a companion were caught in a blizzard while they were traveling from Cedar Lake to Forest City. The companion made it back safely to the fort, but Dr. Ripley was unable to fight his way clear of the raging storm and froze to death. The Litchfield Park memorializes his pioneering by preserving his name at this park, where the townspeople of today can swim, picnic, and generally relax with their friends and neighbors. Because it's the people of a town, after all, who make it what it is, let us have one more visit with some of the folks as our tour through Litchfield nears an end. Without these people to raise products, to buy items, to sell articles, to teach, to heal, to manage and produce, Litchfield just wouldn't be. These are the folks who run the stores, work for Land O'Lakes and Litchfield woolen mills, and at Fenton's and Schwartzwald's. They are all living in a town which wasn't even a dot on the map until after the Civil War, when, in 1869, the St. Paul and Pacific established its right-of-way through Meeker County and decided that what is now our town would be a fine place to build a depot. When Litchfield was finally determined as the county seat, a rapid expansion began that is still going on. It is to the youngsters that we especially look now. They will one day have the job of seeing to it that our town keeps right on growing as it has in the past. We have no fear. We know we will leave our town in the best of hands. Our young people will carry on our traditions and add to the prosperity of our town. Big enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Litchfield, Minnesota, USA. This is our town.
Lakes, rich, fertile farmland, diverse, thriving industries, and a strong pride in the community. Welcome to Litchfield, central Minnesota's best-kept secret on beautiful Lake Ripley. Litchfield, the county seat of Meeker County, is a Minnesota star city for economic development. Businesses, both large and small, prosper in a small-town atmosphere with easy access to larger metropolitan areas. We're conveniently located just 65 miles west of the Twin Cities of Minneapolis-St. Paul on U.S. Highway 12, and just 45 minutes southwest of St. Cloud and Interstate 94. Minnesota Highway 22 also passes through our community, while Highway 24 originates in Litchfield. Our 6,000 residents appreciate our progressive yet comfortable quality of life.
I grew up here and went to school here through 7th grade, and we moved away and had an opportunity to buy the business here in town, and just thrilled to be able to come back to this community.
It's wonderful for our children, great school system, very nice, friendly community. We just really love it here.
Litchfield has so much to offer people of all ages. Great schools, shopping, a variety of religious faiths, and endless acres of outdoor recreation. Summer days, you can hear big bass jumping on Lake Ripley and corn growing just outside of town. Litchfield is a sponsor of Anderson Gardens, a public arboretum on the shore of beautiful Lake Ripley. Our city also maintains 8 well-groomed parks, including Central Park, where we stage all kinds of community events like Music in Central Park during the summer months. Litchfield's Grand Army of the Republic Hall is adjacent to Central Park. Built in 1885 by Civil War Union soldiers, it is the only building of its kind in Minnesota and serves as the Meeker County Museum. Litchfield is blessed with a diversity of industries, and we take pride in every one of them. From high-tech manufacturing to agriculture, our city does business all over the world. We continue to grow, providing financial incentives for new prospective businesses while helping area companies maintain and expand.
We're in the process of investing over $20 million in new plant and equipment to expand our capabilities here at Litchfield. We have, because of our technology, because of the quality of our workforce, we have opportunities to grow our business 3-4-fold over the next few years. And we could have located our plant anywhere in this state or probably anywhere in this country or even overseas. And we chose Litchfield because of the community, the workforce, the support of the Chamber of Commerce and the community itself.
Certainly we've found in central Minnesota that the work ethic that you find with employees here is superior to what you'll find in bigger cities. I know both Minneapolis, spoke with people there, and even cities as large as Chicago. And when they come and visit our site and have a chance to meet our employees, they are extremely impressed with the work ethic that is so apparent in this area.
Litchfield's commercial industrial electric rate is among the lowest in Minnesota. The city of Litchfield has a list of existing available buildings for business and industrial uses. We also maintain industrial zoned land available in the Litchfield Industrial Park. The transporting of goods and services in and out of Litchfield is easily handled as well. In addition to major highways, rail service to Litchfield is provided by Burlington Northern Santa Fe, with its main line to the west coast passing through town. Our new $4.5 million Litchfield Municipal Airport features a 4,000-foot hard surface runway, which is 100 feet wide. Our airport offers both avgas and Jet A fuel. Instrument approaches include both RNAV and VOR approaches. Combined with low taxes, low utility rates, and the affordable cost of living, Litchfield is an attractive place to work or establish a new business. Pay us a visit during the summer and take in Watercade, Litchfield's annual town celebration. Dozens of activities for the whole family highlight an entire weekend of fun.
Hey, let's have a car.
It's a festival for young and old alike, a time to see old friends and make new ones. It all culminates on Sunday afternoon with a rousing parade featuring the nationally award-winning Litchfield High School Marching Band. We value education here in Litchfield, and it shows with very high-quality educational opportunities. School District 465 is headquartered here and features a new $7 million middle school to go along with major improvements to Litchfield High School and Wagner Elementary. A parochial